Hi friends, I'm Joe Hopkins, and this is 5 minutes to make sense of the Bible. This week, we're focusing on 1 Samuel chapters 21 through 25, plus Psalms 34 and 54. This short reflection is especially meant for folks who are reading the books of Samuel as part of the Life and Times of King David reading program of Streetsville United Church. But even if you're not participating in the program, listen on, dear friends. Here's a summary of the narrative in these chapters. David is an outlaw at this point, wandering across the land of what is now the Gaza Strip, southern Israel, the West Bank, and even Jordan. And some hundreds of warriors accompany him as they evade the pursuits of King Saul. They must be hungry, so they ask for food from a group of priests who live just north of Jerusalem. The head priest anxiously asks David what business he is on there, and David lies to him, saying that he is following secret orders from King Saul. The priest believes him, provides some food for David and his comrades, and then they part. Then David and his entourage briefly and strangely hang out in Gath, a city of the Philistines. The inhabitants there figure out who David is, an Israelite warrior who has killed many Philistines, so David fakes mental illness in order to escape any violence among his hosts. However, simultaneously, a shepherd loyal to King Saul tells on David and the priests who aided him, and King Saul takes out his wrath on the priests by killing all of them except for one. This lone survivor finds David and tells him about the massacre, and David takes responsibility for the violence due to the lie that he told the priests to begin with. While David is fleeing from Saul, he gets word that Philistines are raiding an Israelite village, and after a direct conversation with God, David leads his warriors to victory over the invading Philistines. Saul's son and David's best buddy, Jonathan, finds David, and they reaffirm their covenant with each other. But the good vibes don't last long, and Saul leads his troops to pursue David. Again. Yet Saul is forced to forego the chase because there are Philistines to deal with. Again. Having dealt with the Philistine threat, Saul returns to his new favorite pastime of pursuing David, but he stops to poop in a cave. I am not making that up, and I can't help but note that the direct translation of the Hebrew phrase there is, quote, to cover his feet, unquote. Cover his feet with what? It turns out that David and his entourage are hiding in that very same cave, which must be very awkward and or funny, and David takes a swipe of his sword and cuts off a corner of King Saul's robe. Once Saul leaves the cave, David follows him and reveals that though he could have killed Saul, he didn't, which shows how much more righteous David is than Saul. Oh, and in a matter of a single verse, Samuel, the prophet and last judge of Israel, dies. Moving right along, David and his band of outlaws get hungry again, and they come to the herds of Nabal. David's messengers ask Nabal for a little bit of food, but Nabal refuses and insults David. This does not go over well with David, and he prepares his troops for violence. However, Nabal's wife, Abigail, intervenes, giving David and his peeps some snacky snacks, and David promptly falls in love with her. Lucky for David, Nabal dies a few days after that, and Abigail becomes David's wife. And so does another woman from farther north in the valley of Jezreel. Some of you might ask at this point, but what about David's wife Michal? Oh, she married another dude while David was on the lam running for his life. Sorry folks, but you just gotta keep up. To accompany this narrative from the books of Samuel, there are a few psalms that are associated with David's cat and mouse games with Saul. These include Psalms 34, which has the great phrase, quote, taste and see that the Lord is good, unquote, and Psalm 54, in which David praises God for delivering him from the wrath of Saul. How exactly David had time to write poetry while he was fleeing, fighting, and flirting, I don't really know. That's a lot to chew on, so here are 3 questions for reflection. Some of these questions are in multiple parts. First, have you ever felt the need to flee from a bad relationship? Or have you helped someone flee a bad relationship? What kind of emotions did you experience during that time, and how did you process them? Second reflection question, how do you feel about telling lies in order to protect oneself or another person? What do you do if someone finds out about the lie? And third, how do you behave when you get hangry? That is, hungry and angry at the same time. And what's your favorite food when you feel hangry? So there, 5 minutes to make sense of the Bible. I hope that you'll continue to read the rest of the books of Samuel and notice some details that pique your curiosity. God often tries to catch our attention by piquing our curiosity. And as good as reading the Bible alone is, please remember that we make the most sense of the Bible when we read the Bible together. Peace, friends.